Welcome to this explainer of the source material. Are you ready to completely transform your approach to genealogy? Listen, we've all been there. You start out as this overeager tree builder, just excitedly clicking every green leaf and hint you see, right? But eventually, you end up with this messy, wildly inaccurate family tree. Well, today, we're going to dive into the source material together and see exactly how we can step up our game. We're going to transform from amateur tree builders into rigorous family history detectives by dissecting the 20 most common genealogy mistakes researchers make. So get ready to really sharpen those investigative skills.
So, are you really descended from royalty? It's the ultimate question, isn't it? Or maybe your family has that classic legend that three brothers came over from Europe together. These romanticized stories are what we like to call internet lore and family myths. And look, we desperately want them to be true, but believing them without demanding hard, documentary proof, that is a massive mistake. As you'll see, most of these comforting family myths simply do not survive rigorous genealogical proof.
Now, to make these 20 common mistakes super easy to digest, we've grouped them into a roadmap of 4 distinct traps that we are going to systematically dismantle today. Number 1, avoiding the assumption trap. 2, escaping the evidence illusion. 3, curing genealogical tunnel vision. And 4, adopting the proof mindset.
All right, let's jump right into number 1, the assumption trap, and how to avoid those early pitfalls.
Here are a few common assumptions that will absolutely derail your research right out of the gate. First up, expecting consistent spelling. Historical record keepers really just spelled names phonetically, and our ancestors often simplify their own spellings over time. So you definitely want to use wildcards and alternative spellings in your searches. Second, conflating similar names. Just because you find 2 guys named John Smith living in the exact same county does not mean they're the same person. We have to carefully cross-reference details like birth dates and spouses before we even think about merging them. Otherwise, blended lineages. And third, jumping generations too quickly. Never ever connect an ancestor to an older person with the same surname just because the dates roughly fit. Skipping those step-by-step generational proofs creates entirely inaccurate lineages.
Okay, let's dive into this comparison. It is so incredibly easy to fall into the modern trap of forcing a biological assumption onto every historical household we see. But the reality? Blended historical households were basically the norm. Step-parents, informal adoptions, foster children, these were all extremely common back in the day. If we just assume every child living in a house is a biological offspring, we are definitely going to misidentify family members and end up chasing the wrong genetic lines for years.
Which brings us nicely to trap number 2, the evidence illusion, or the danger of trusting sloppy sources. Escaping this illusion usually comes down to 3 essential steps. Step 1, verify before copying public trees. Honestly, if we're just copying branches from public sites without verifying the primary sources ourselves, we're just perpetuating unchecked errors. We're creating what are known as orphan lineages. Step 2, record your source citations. Adding facts without noting where you actually got them makes it literally impossible to double-check your credibility later on. And step 3, reevaluate old conclusions. Never treat your early research as untouchable dogma. New digital collections are coming out every single day, so we have to constantly retest those old assumptions.
Now, relying purely on extracted, searchable database indexes instead of original historical images, huge error. We just can't blindly trust database transcriptions. Why? Because indexers frequently misread faded, cursive handwriting. It happens all the time, and it leads to completely incorrect names and dates. The takeaway here is that you must always click through to view the original document image to verify the truth for yourself.
Another big part of the evidence illusion is, simply looking in the wrong places. First, failing to exhaust local jurisdictions. Searching only the current county is a rookie mistake because historical boundary lines shifted all the time. Second, misidentifying immigrant origins. We can't just assume our ancestor came from a major European city just because it was listed as their port of departure. You really need ship manifests and hometown church records for that. And finally, neglecting probate and land records. Vital records like birth and death certificates are great, but wills, deeds, and land patents, they often hold the absolute definitive proof of relationships that those vital records totally lack.
And hey, while we're on the topic of records, we absolutely have to talk about the negative search. A negative search is simply documenting when you searched a specific record set and found absolutely nothing. So why does this matter? Well, because failing to write this down means you are inevitably going to waste hours, maybe even days, re-examining the exact same dead ends a few years from now. Write down what you didn't find. It's honestly just as important as what you did.
All right, moving right along to trap number 3, tunnel vision, and how to cure that narrow focus.
The absolute best cure for tunnel vision is researching collateral lines. We're talking about the siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins of your direct ancestors. Look, when you hit a brick wall with, say, your great-great-grandfather, it is time to pivot. Stop staring at him and start looking at his brother. Collateral lines so often hold the crucial clues, like missing probate records or DNA matches, that will finally break down your most frustrating brick walls.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the error. Overlooking women's maiden names literally cuts off half of your ancestral tree. Think about that. If we are only researching married women under their husband's surname, we're doing it wrong. We have to intentionally seek out marriage records, probate documents, and death certificates under a woman's birth surname if we want to unlock that whole other half of our heritage.
Let's walk through how tunnel vision actually distorts the records we use. Take census data. You just can't take it at face value. Enumerators made mistakes, respondents definitely lied about their ages, and sometimes neighbors got miscategorized as borders. Or what about DNA results? Assuming an ethnicity estimate is some instant answer without a paper trail is a big mistake. It requires really careful triangulation. And ancestral actions? You absolutely must view them within their historical context. Understanding the social backdrop, like local laws, epidemics, wars, is critical to explaining exactly why a family suddenly packed up and moved, or just vanished from the records altogether.
I love this one because failing to build a simple chronology leads to some frankly hilarious logical impossibilities. Think about it. A mother dies in 1848, but somehow has a child in 1850. And then someone gets married in 1855 at the ripe old age of 5. It sounds crazy, but if you randomly add life events to a tree without plotting them out chronologically, this is exactly what happens. A simple timeline instantly reveals these glaring errors and literally saves your research from ruin.
And that brings us to our final trap, number 4. Adopting the proof mindset. Putting evidence over assumption.
So the crucial point is this. The proof mindset means you start treating every single piece of data as a working hypothesis until it is backed by multiple, independent, original sources along with a rock-solid timeline. This mindset is exactly what transforms a messy, unverified collection of names and dates into an authentic, highly accurate family history that you can actually trust. If you take away absolutely nothing else from this explainer today, please remember this powerful quote from the source material. Evidence must always outweigh assumption. Literally every major mistake we've discussed today, whether you're copying a flawed online tree, merging the wrong guy's name John Smith, or clinging to a family myth, it all stems from jumping to conclusions without rigorous proof. Let the evidence guide you, for sure, not the assumptions.
Which leaves us with one final, provocative question. Is your family tree ever truly finished? Well, the answer is a resounding no. Treating a tree as done might just be the ultimate mistake. Genealogy is this beautiful, ongoing discovery process of correction and refinement as new records constantly come to light. So, take these new detective skills, avoid these 20 traps, and dive right back into your research. Your next great discovery is out there waiting for you.